How's it going, everyone? Wayne the Unknown here, and welcome to another episode of Cosplay Con Talk, where we basically discuss everything pertaining to the cosplay community and conventions. Tonight, we'll be doing another segment on Get to Know That Cosplayer, and tonight's featured guest is Diz, also known as Freed Creations.
Hi.
A little
How's it going there?
quick pause there. I'm doing good. Again, I wanted to thank you for coming on to talk about your cosplay experience and your convention experience and all the other stuff you do for the community.
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to have a little chit chat with you.
Nice. So, to begin, like I do with every interview, I always ask, how long have you been cosplaying for?
So, official cosplay, I started back in 2004. So that was like 17 years ago, which is really crazy to think about now.
That's
Um,
definitely have that cosplay veteran belt then definitely.
yeah, I guess so. But I would say sort of in a more like professional capacity, it's been about 11 years. I'm actually I went to college and majored in theater costuming, and I got my first paid costuming job in 2010. So I feel like that's like 11 years of quote unquote professional
I mean,
experience.
still like 10 plus years. That's pretty impressive. I've talked to a few uh, cosplayers who have done it for that long, and that's definitely like, when people still kind of found it, and I don't mean to use this term negative, but like still kind of found it weird and everything. Like
Yeah, no,
it wasn't
definitely.
as normal back then as it is now.
Yeah, 2004, I want to say, is the first year that I discovered Kamui Cosplay back when she was like just getting into stuff over on DeviantArt. And I saw her work and it was just so incredible. And I was like, I want to do that when I grow up, basically.
So, with you starting back in 2004, do you remember what your very first convention in cosplay was?
I do actually. So SakuraCon over in Seattle was my first convention, but it was back when it was at the old convention center. So yeah, it was still small. It was still like in a hotel basically, and there was like a teeny little vendor's hall with crowded aisles, and it was just the coolest thing for me because, I grew up in this teeny middle of nowhere where we don't have stuff like that. So for young me being in that environment, even though it was way smaller than SakuraCon is now, was just absolutely mind blowing and made me want to do it even more.
Nice.
My first cosplay, I'm trying to think, probably would be one of the characters from Shaman King.
Ah, that's an anime I haven't heard of in years.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of have a bit of a lesser known slash maybe retro uh repertoire for costumes.
Do you remember who the character was?
I had three costumes. It was Faust the Eighth, who I actually recently revamped, and I'm super proud of that costume now. And then Anna Koyama and Tao Jun were the other two that I had done a sort of, they were sort of closet cosplays at the
When
time.
isn't Anna technically Yo Asakura's fiance, quote unquote?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And Taojin, that would be Yo's rival, correct?
So Tao Ren was sort of his rival, and then Tao Jun is Ren's sister.
Oh, okay. Okay, I know who you're talking about now. Oh man, I haven't seen that. Read and seen that in years.
Yeah, it was absolutely one of my favorites. It was like Saturday morning cartoons. Always had to watch it. Recorded it on VHS if I had to miss it, you know.
Oh man, yeah, back in the good old days of 4Kids TV.
Yep, yep. Or kids TV,
Oh
for sure.
man. What was it like cosplaying as those three characters from such a now would be considered a 20-year-old anime.
So back then, I think it was fine because the anime was airing on basically public TV, so more people were aware of it at the time, and I definitely had people at the convention like, "Oh, I love your costume," and like, "Can I have your picture?" And that was really cool. But now, like, so in 2017, I went back to SockCon and I cosplayed as Faust there, and there were like 8 people maybe that came up to me the entire convention that were like, "Oh my gosh, are you Faust?" I was like, "A kindred spirit." But yeah, um, it's definitely a little bit weird now because it's not like, everybody knows My Hero Academia, everybody knows Attack on Titan, cosplays from that. Everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, I know your character," and they're really excited.
It's it's rare when someone recognizes like, an older character from an anime
Yeah.
that not many people remember. I mean, I think most of the animes people still recognize from back then. Like the more mainstream ones are like, Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
Those are more
Yeah,
noticeable.
especially,
Those are more recognizable animes, but like animes like Shaman King,
yeah.
people kind of like remember.
Well, and especially because Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball both recently got sort of reboots,
Revamped.
right?
Yeah, they did.
But yeah.
Makes me feel
So
old.
back then it was more like, everybody knew Inuyasha, everybody knew Tenchi Muyo, right?
Prince
It's
of
like all
Tennis
these
and all
older,
those.
yeah, all of these things that now are like, oh, that's like super
Wait,
retro anime,
like those were a
were
thing?
new right then.
Like, wait, wait, that was an anime. Like, yeah, that was an anime. It's an old anime, but still an anime.
Yep. Yep.
Oh man. So what was it like cosplaying back then? Especially with
Um,
cosplaying still being kind of new and not really well known.
yeah, so I'm gonna say that like everything, technology has really advanced.
I mean,
So,
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
well, and just like thinking about how nowadays we have, 3D printers. You can 3D print a prop, right?
Oh
And
yeah,
that's
no.
like a common thing that everybody has in their household.
Well,
When I
yeah.
was when I was a kid, 3D printers didn't even exist.
Or if
And
they did, they weren't they weren't allowed to be used by the public.
yeah, when they first were a thing, it was, thousands and thousands of dollars if you wanted one of your own.
Now you can pay
And
like $200 for one and get it delivered
or
to you in like a couple
you can
days.
get an older model for $50 on eBay.
Well, that
So
too.
so yeah, the technology has really advanced there. Things like Warbler were sort of just being invented when I was getting into cosplay. So I think nowadays the game has really, really been upped for cosplay because there are all of these really cool materials and resources that everybody can,
Oh
well,
yeah,
not
no.
everybody, but that are way more easily accessible.
From what I've
Um,
from what I've seen, people use like heat guns for armor and boot covers.
yeah, definitely. The thermoplastics have become sort of a really big material to be used in cosplay, both for armors, like you said, and also for props.
Now, I imagine with the change of technology with cosplays, I imagine you've learned to adapt and incorporate that with some of your cosplays today.
Yeah. So when I was cosplaying back in 2004, it was kind of more of like a closet cosplay scene in a way. A lot of stuff would either just be stuff that you had in your closet that you would then alter to fit the character, or stuff you would get at a thrift store and then make it fit for the character. Or you would just find like a pattern at Joann's that was sort of similar and then make something like that. And now, like, so my Faust cosplay back then was really just a closet cosplay. Like I got a lab coat from a thrift store and I had like a blue shirt, and it was just mostly like the makeup was the big thing for getting the character across. But now we have our own 3D printer, so I was able to 3D print the Oracle Bell wrist piece for that
Nice.
cosplay. And like the the funny thing about growing up is also that you get bigger and better toys to play with, even if technology wasn't advancing so much. So like I have access to a full wood shop now. So I was
Oh,
able to make
nice.
his prop weapon as a it's a three section staff basically that screws in to look like one piece. So yeah, like stuff like that I would not have been able to do back then, and partially that's because, age and financial situation, but also partially that's technology advancing.
Oh yeah. On that topic of like building like intricate cosplays, um, what would you say aside from Faust the Eighth? What would you say is the most complicated yet intricate cosplay you've ever made?
Absolutely. Well, okay, for cosplay or versus costume. For cosplay, I would say it would be absolutely my steampunk Tidus costume.
Steampunk Titus like from Final Fantasy X?
Yes, yeah.
What?
So we have a local convention here every year that's sort of like a sci-fi fantasy geek convention, right?
Oh,
And the theme that year was sort of steampunk, and I decided that I wanted to do a cosplay of Titus, but make it fit into the con theme that year. So
nice.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna have this like Edwardian style of pants to go with it, and I'm gonna do like a little vest like this. It was really, really fun doing the research for all of that. But
Now,
but yeah, I made everything except for the base shirt from
nice.
scratch.
Now, what sword did you use? Did you use Jet Sword or the Brotherhood sword that Waka gives you in the game?
I did the Brotherhood sword, and I also made that sort of steampunk. So,
Nice.
and that was the first large prop that I ever made. So
And
it's kind of falling apart now,
I mean, I know
and I
the
really want to
sword.
remake
Now,
it.
did you make it see-through like it was in the game?
I didn't. So I decided because it was this sort of steampunk theme, I was going to make it look like aircraft aluminum or something, right? So
Nice.
it's a silver body and then it has like brass accents on it. And then I have a 3D printed gear mechanism on the
Oh,
handle where the
kind
wave
of,
part would be.
kind of like Nero's sword from Devil May Cry 4.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Nice.
Um, so
I've never heard of a steampunk Titus before. I mean, I've seen steampunk Final Fantasy characters, but never one from such a, again, a very old game.
yeah. I guess I do have a tendency to drift towards those older uh, pieces, don't I?
Nice. Now what did you do for like the wig and everything? Because I know he's got like that wavy in hair in the back and everything.
So I actually got my hair cut specifically to look like that because it's sort of the same color. It's not quite perfect, but it's pretty close. Would you
Nice.
like me to send you a photo of
Oh
that?
yeah, yeah. No, what I do real quick at the end of every podcast, what I'm trying to do
Mhm.
is I'll let the person know what cosplays we talked about, so that
Mhm.
I'll send them the list of the cosplays we talked about. Then I basically have you send it towards the end.
Okay, sounds good.
But yeah, no.
I just wasn't sure if you wanted to look at the pictures of stuff we're talking about or not.
Oh, nice. Yeah, no. Like I said, towards the end.
Mhm.
So back to the topic of thrift stores. Is that something you would recommend for first-time cosplayers and con
Oh
goers?
yeah. Oh, definitely, absolutely. I have a whole panel that I do on cosplay on a budget, and thrift store is like the number one recommendation from me after closet.
Nice.
Because you can find a lot more potential in your closet, I think, than a lot of people imagine they can.
Oh yeah, no, most definitely. From experience, if you have it in your closet and you could turn something into it, I mean, I've done that with a few steampunk outfits here and there. So
Definitely.
nice.
One of the biggest things I think is important in sort of doing a budget cosplay is when you're looking for materials or pieces for your costume to not necessarily look at things as they are. So, like, if you see a shirt that's sort of the right color, but it's the wrong style, don't necessarily look at it as, oh, this is a shirt, but it's the wrong shirt. More look at it as, oh, this is the right color or this is the right material, and I can make this bend to my will into whatever it is that you're looking for. And that
Nice.
applies for so much stuff. I mean, like, sometimes I've used just random like hardware or kitchen supplies even to incorporate into a prop or, some piece of a costume for a, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something specific and it's not coming to mind. Um, there was somebody else that I saw who had used a laundry basket as an armor breastplate. Like they had
Hmm.
sprayed it silver and they had cut it to fit, and it was just like it looked absolutely amazing, but it was just this cheap laundry basket, right?
Nice.
So
I know some people
so
do
thinking
that
outside
with
the box.
I know some people do that with soda can tabs to make
Oh yeah, yeah,
chainmail.
you could do that too. Definitely time consuming if you're
Oh,
doing it that way,
oh,
but
definitely. I guess the next question is with cosplay on a budget, what are some other low budget cosplays, closet cosplays that you've done here and there?
so man, like all of my early on cosplays really were kind of closet cosplays, especially because after I got really into like anime and going to SakuraCon every year, um, I I started this like cosplay Friday trend at my school. So it would just be every Friday, me and my group of friends would, well, my group of friends and I would get dressed up as, whatever character we wanted, and then we would just be at school in cosplay, which is kind of silly, but it was also really fun. And it sort of stretched that idea of, again, just like looking in your closet and seeing what you have, be sort of like super, super low budget and also super low on time to figure out what your costume is going to look like.
Nice. Very
I'm
nice.
not sure if that completely answered your
Oh
question.
no, it does. What would you say your favorite low budget cosplay has been?
So actually, last, was it last autumn? Uh, the KomoriCon did a digital convention,
Oh, Digicon.
and yeah, yeah, Digikumo, and they had their Iron cosplay panel during that, except they did it more as like a closet cosplay panel, and that was so much fun. And that's probably when I did one of my favorite closet cosplays, which was Alphonse.
Nice.
It was like you had 5 minutes to put together your costume, and you couldn't use anything that was like already specifically from that cosplay.
Gotcha.
So like if the prompt was Sailor Moon and you had a Sailor Moon costume, you could not just go and put on your Sailor Moon costume.
You
You had to
have to
find
find
something else that
something.
looked like it. Yeah. So yeah, I Alphonse was the last one I think in that set of maybe four costumes that they had as a prompt, and it was so funny. I used the trash can next to my desk as the helmet for
Hey,
Alphonse in
it
the end.
works. If it's the right size, it works.
Yeah, it was very, very funny for me. But yeah, stuff like that I really super enjoy, where you're sort of forced to think outside the normal box. Um, it's good creative problem solving.
Very nice. So back when we first started this conversation, what made
Mhm.
you get into cosplay and all that stuff back then?
I think honestly, it was sort of that combination of, one, I was watching anime on the Saturday morning, Fox Box or 4Kids or whatever it was.
Toonami and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, I didn't have Toonami. I didn't have that was paid television and I did not have that. But yeah, like I think Sonic was probably the first anime that I ended up watching on Saturday morning cartoons. But getting really into the anime and then getting into the anime community in the albeit sort of early-ish stages of the internet, and and through that community also seeing people making these costumes and then finding, YuGiOh Cosplay and seeing, wow, you can make really incredible costumes and just how cool that whole transformation feels and looks really, really captivated me, and I wanted to do that too.
Nice.
I think in a lot of ways, it's sort of, I wasn't super happy with myself back then, and I still struggle with that a bit. So, costume for me has also always been a way to be sort of like outside of myself. You can be whoever you want to be in a costume.
It's basically
And I
like
always
Halloween every day.
Exactly. And I loved that. Halloween was always my favorite because you could dress up and nobody would think it was weird.
Now, are there any future cosplays that you're wanting to eventually do when people can start going back to cons? Because I know cons are slowly coming back
Oh
since
yeah,
since COVID
definitely.
is like kind of getting towards the end and people can finally, go into full cosplay and not have to wear a mask.
Yeah. I have a huge list of cosplays that are either like sort of in progress or things that are like dream cosplays for me.
Care to share your top five without going too much into detail?
Definitely like the top two dream cosplays for me that are like a project that I really want to do well, which means it's going to be really expensive and time consuming, are my Monster Hunter character, which is going to involve big props and armor, of course. And then Felix Argyle from ReZero. Those are my top two.
Nice. Now, we have about 8 minutes, and this is a question I forgot to ask. What's that one cosplay that you've only did once and you eventually would want to bring back, or and also what's one cosplay that you've done and you would never want to bring back?
Hmm, those are good questions. I feel like there's always the opportunity to bring back another costume. There are definitely some costumes where I wasn't 100% happy with how it turned out or how I ended up, wearing it to a con or to whatever event I had made it for. But I always feel like there's room for improvement. Um, you Just because something didn't go well for that one con, in my opinion, doesn't mean that you should just scrap it. It means that you should identify the things that were wrong with it and then work on fixing them.
Basically, improve
So,
it.
yeah, I have a few costumes on my list that are, I sort of try to keep track of the sort of like percentage of readiness on the costume. So there are a few costumes that I have worn to a convention, but either after the convention that stuff was falling apart or just over time things have deteriorated. Um, so yeah, a couple of things like that where, with my Tidus costume actually, like I need to remake that sword because it was my first big prop, like I said, and it's kind of falling apart
I
now
mean, the
because,
sword's almost like what, 3, 4 feet at least.
well, yeah, and I made it out of the foam core poster board.
Foam core poster. Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not like it's pretty lightweight, which is nice, but the material is not super durable. So over
Well,
time, it's gotten a little bit brittle.
Well, I imagine it's more like lightweight than if you had made Jet's sword that was given to you at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, probably. Um, but yeah, I think that it's always worth revisiting. Like if it's a costume that you enjoyed the concept of, that it's always worth revisiting and trying to improve it. So I never really cross things off of my list. I suppose one Halloween I did a cosplay of the Yu-Gi-Oh card Change of Heart. And it was fine for Halloween, but I don't know that it's something I would particularly wear Although now I'm thinking about how I could make the wings way better than I did way back in school. So I don't know, maybe even that one.
Nice.
And then the other you said was
One that you would want to bring back. They haven't done it so
oh,
long.
yeah. Probably either Reno from Final Fantasy VII. I've had on my list to sort of redo. I used to have really long hair, and I kind of just like would color my hair for long-haired cosplays.
Nice.
But now I have short hair, and so it would be
Yeah.
interesting to do that again with a wig
And
instead. And
speaking of Reno, what did you think of Reno from the remastered version?
I enjoyed that. I really am enjoying the remaster and looking forward to more of it coming out.
Especially with Yuffie now being introduced as a playable character for the Final Fantasy Intergrade.
Yeah, I think that'll be really fun.
Nice.
I've always been kind of a big fan of Final Fantasy VII, and I have some fond memories of the Church of the One-Winged Angel making an appearance at SakuraCon.
Nice.
Yeah.
We got about 3 minutes. One more question I forgot to ask. Do you have like any embarrassing, funny moments you like to share? Because with all these interviews, I always like to bring some humor into them. So are there like any funny, embarrassing moments at cons that you can retell that aren't like, that are somewhat appropriate?
I'm trying to think. I don't really have any like super embarrassing moments that I can think of at a con. But I have a sad one and a really like stupid, laughable one that I can
Okay.
think of. So the sad one at SakuraCon, I was doing a I was doing a photo shoot for Naruto stuff, and then I was going right from that to a Full Metal Alchemist photo shoot. So I brought with me in a little like grocery sack the stuff that I needed to make the change between the two costumes. And I left the bag with my friend, and she's like, "Oh yeah, totally, I'll watch it for you." And then I guess she got bored while we were at the Naruto photo shoot, so she just left it under a tree, and presumably some hobo just picked it up and left with
Oh
it.
no.
So,
What was the Naruto cosplay?
it was an original character ninja. It's like a sound ninja because I was obsessed with the edgy sort of stuff. Um, but yeah, it was a transformation from that original character to Envy from Full Metal Alchemist. And so somebody walked off with my pants and my
Oh,
my socks and my headband and my gloves for Envy.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so that was a little bit sad. The silly stupid one is a lot more laughable, so I'll leave you with that one. I have a tendency of sort of procrastinating and or getting grand ideas like way too close to a convention. So a couple years ago, I decided that I was going to make like a sort of space soldier character to go with my friend's Infinity cosplay, the miniatures game. I did
Okay.
this the night before she was going to do that cosplay. So I made the costume, but I didn't have the right color bias tape. So that next morning of the con, of the day that I was going to be wearing this costume, I went to Joann's, I bought the right color bias tape, and then I brought my sewing machine into the bathroom at the con. And I was sewing on bias tape onto my shirt in the bathroom at the con. That is ultimate con crunch if anyone ever
I mean,
asks.
I've heard stories where it's like just like a day or minutes before the con, and they just like either get it done or they don't get it done. But I've never heard of someone literally finishing a costume while at the con.
In the
In
bathroom
the
at the con.
bathroom, man. It's
It's never
like
too
I
late.
just can't imagine someone just knocking like occupado and just hear a sewing machine and they're like, okay, all right, I'm just gonna walk away
Okay, well, it
now.
wasn't it wasn't in the toilet stall. It was in the little lobby area. But yeah. Yeah, good times.
Oh man. Well, that should about wrap it up. Again, Diz, thank you for coming on to
Yeah,
Cosplay Con
my pleasure.
Talk. Get to know that cosplayer. If you would like to know more, links to their platforms will be in the description below. Again,
Sounds good.
I am Wayne the Unknown. Thank you for listening, and until next time, thank you for watching.
Yeah, my pleasure.